knows what you should be doing, even though they don't know your life, your stories, your desires, your fears, your family, your obligations. I'm hoping this podcast gives you the opportunity to think about what you want, to listen to your still small voice.
Welcome back. So this will be the second week in a row that I actually record through another device, not planning. As someone who has said in the past that she doesn't travel well and she doesn't do a lot, I feel like all of a sudden I'm doing an awful lot of traveling. Maybe there is something in that manifesting thing. Anyway, this week I had a topic and it was essentially about just all the stuff that is needed for summer. If you live in a place or are a beach sort of family, I think, or, a swimming sort of family, you have all of those things. You have the towels and the blankets and the bags and the noodles and the towels and the sunscreen, and that's just something you do. And I think about it now that that's something I've had to learn later in life. And I've also realized just recently on this trip that while I am an ocean person, I am not necessarily a beach person. And those are two separate things. I am not a sand person. I do not want to sit in the sun on the sand. I want to be out on the water covered in the shade. But that's a new thing for me. But again, I think that's the difference. Like when I say that I like the ocean, there's a lot of images of beach and there are beach people. I am not a beach person. I admire the beach people. I want to be the beach people. I'm not the beach people. And I think it does have a lot. It's going to sound crazy. It has a lot to do with the fact that you have to have a lot of stuff. And I don't think you have to have a lot of stuff, but I know that it does make the days and, the times more enjoyable. I did just spend the day at the pool with some friends, and it was lovely, but there was a lot of stuff that had to go down. And luckily I am still a minimalist in many, many ways. So I have my, one little tote bag that's got my towel and my bathing suit and my flip-flops and my sunscreen, which I finally remembered to order 2 weeks ago. But, there are things you need for summer if you're going to do that summer sort of thing. If you're going to go swimming, if you're going to go to the lake, if you're going to go to the beach. And it's stuff. And for me, can be very challenging. I think that might be why summer can be challenging. It requires a lot more stuff. It also requires being okay in hot temperatures. Some people may be okay with that, and some people, depending on their stage of life or what's happening, some people like being warm, like being hot. Some people it does not work well with. But anyway, my whole point of this episode is just that traveling or going to the beach or doing those things, it just requires some extra planning and time. And for many years, it was just too much for me to think about taking a quote-unquote vacation anywhere else. My dream vacations are staying at home and not having to pack things up and not having to move things around. So the fact that I have spent the last I had to skip the weekends. So the last 3 weekends I've been away for 2, and then again I'm going to go away in 2 weeks. It's been a little strange to kind of pack up suitcases and throw it in the car and then sit in the car and drive for an extended period of time. So I say that as someone now, driving 4 hours home on a day that I might not have really wanted to, but I'm going to, that it can be a lot. It can be a lot to get the things to go to the beach. It can be a lot to do the traveling to go to the beach. I know many people who make the trip part of the journey. I also want to be one of those people. I am not one of those people. If I'm the passenger, it works a little better, but it's still very much, I'm not a great traveler. I'm not a great journeyer, so to speak, particularly in a car. If you want to put me in a plane or a train, I don't know. I feel like there's some sense of someone else is taking the responsibility. And I feel like in a car, it's very much more personal responsibility. I feel like there's more opportunities to make changes to the route, to have things go differently, and I'm just not that sort of way. So while summer is, summertime and the living is easy, for some people that ease can be more of a challenge, and possibly they're hiding it because they know how weird they seem. Not me, but they know how weird they seem, that all this relaxation is actually very anxiety producing, or all this additional work that has to happen to quote unquote go relax might actually be causing more anxiety than going to relax. So that's been on my mind this week, as again, in the next 6 weeks, I'm being gone for 3 of them after not traveling for many, many years. And then just seeing the work it requires, just for me, myself, and I, to go get to certain places, and the driving and the packing and the logistics and all of that. It can be a lot to quote unquote take a vacation. And I know, that's why there are many people, and why I don't want to go anywhere, because when I get back from the vacation, I'm too tired and exhausted, and I've got all these things to do, and I just should have stayed home. But again, there is something to be said for taking the time away from home and seeing things in a different light. So there is a reason to do it. There is a point to doing it, and it can be very helpful. But I think also acknowledging that you may or may not be a great traveler. You may or may not be a person who likes packing. You may or may not be a person who likes the journey, or even sleeps well in other places that aren't home. That's a reality as well, or just doesn't feel safe or doesn't feel good. Again, all of these things can be overcome if you want to, but also if you don't want to. I want to give you a free pass today of you don't have to do summer or vacation or any breaks in any way that others think that you have to go enjoy it. And like I said, I just realized that while I'm an ocean person, or I'm not a beach person, I'm an ocean person. But that's a very different perspective than when people think of going to the ocean. I would have sand in my car this morning for going to see the ocean, but I was like, oh yeah, I am not too much stimulation for me, too much going on. And again, I don't want to sit in the hot sun for hours on end. There are many benefits, as I mentioned last week, to air conditioning, and I'm just not wired that way, and that's not enjoyable. But again, I have friends who do love it, so I do from time to time, suck it up and go do it. So just thinking about those things this week and checking in. I will be back to hopefully regularly scheduled programming next week. I had a plan for today, but decided to scrap it just because of these thoughts as I'm driving back home. And maybe there'll be more thoughts as I drive on the next adventure in 2 weeks. We are getting close. Next week will be the solstice, so it will be the longest day of the year in the northern hemisphere and the shortest day of the year in the southern hemisphere. So this is actually when it'll start getting darker at night, and it will feel kind of weird. I always find it very strange that end of June, mid-July, when it's summer, it feels almost like it's getting more fall than I think it should. So that'll be next week. That episode will come out on the solstice, so that will be probably solstice related, but we'll see what happens. One never knows when one makes plans and then watches them go out the window, and you got to do something else. So hopefully it's been a good start of your summer so far, whatever that looks like, and I'll be back with you next week.
Thanks for joining me today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. If you enjoyed this episode, I'm so glad. If you didn't, that's great too. Thanks for giving it a try. You can do all the things: subscribe, rate, review, emoji it up if you feel so called. I appreciate any feedback you have. Please reach out to me on Facebook at The Still Small Voice Whisperer.